Hi, I'm Kara Fleck-Plewinski with Transportation Services. Today, I'm speaking with Koralleen Stavish, one of the creators of the DOTS Art Park installation, Zoom Happy Hour. Koralleen is part of the Information and Education Technology team at the College of Agriculture and Natural Resources. This team is a group of 9 individuals that helps the college with all of their computing needs. Now, while Koralleen and her colleagues are not trained artists, I think you will find their display is very unique and creative. Let's get started. Hi, Koralleen. How are you today?
Hi, I'm great.
I am super excited to talk with you about your piece, Zoom Happy Hour. And as you pointed out last week, it just makes sense that we would have this discussion on Zoom. Now, since we're meeting virtually, I've put together a slideshow of images so all of our viewers can actually see your piece and what we're talking about throughout this discussion. So starting with this first picture here, tell me what inspired this piece.
When we read about the art park call for proposals, I think it mentioned something about reflecting on the past year. And our group helps the college with their technology needs. And certainly that was our huge pivot from being in person to doing everything over Zoom for last year. So that was foremost in our minds when we think of the impact that the past years had on us. So that the happy hour idea was inspired by, we've had some actual Zoom happy hours, and they're not like real happy hours.
They're not.
You can tell we're trying, but we'd really like to probably be in person more than Zooming. And so this kind of captures that dynamic of giving it our best shot.
Yeah. So I took a short 360 view video when I visited you last week while things were under construction. And so can you tell us, what are we seeing on this installation here?
Well, the slide that we're looking at right now is our Zoom screen. So it's that set of squares that people see when they look at a typical Zoom session. And each of the people in our office had the responsibility of creating their own screen. So it was just supposed to be something that reflects them at a Zoom happy hour and the sort of face that people would see at the happy hour. And then here along the side, this structure represents our office environment. You can see the things that are important to us about the thing that brought us together in the first place, our actual office. So lots of Maryland things. Our plants, we're always worried about who's going to water the plants because we're not in the office that much anymore. And of course, our fish, because you have to feed them. Fortunately, we have the hardiest fish in the universe. So
that's good to hear.
And then back here where we have a little depth, we have bins that contain items that show what really kept us happy over the last year. So that's much more individual because everybody has different things that interest them and make them, feel like who they actually are. So that's what the backside is about.
I love it. So there were so many great details on this, as you pointed out. And I think that the biggest surprise for me when I went to go see this was that the QR codes all lead to different websites. And can you tell me about why these websites? Some of them, I can't remember exactly where everything went, but I was curious what the thought was behind these particular QR codes that you chose.
It's more about building the office environment again. So there were some studies that have been done on Zoom communication. So some of those lead to actual research studies that have been published. And there are a couple articles that we found that were about, I I remember the title of one of the articles was, "I hate my employer's mandatory Zoom happy hours." That was one. Just, we don't really hate them. It was just being a little sardonic.
I, I liked it. It gave, you know, a level of interaction that I think I was not expecting when I saw this. So it was cool that, you know, if anyone who walks by to see it can just hold up their phone and they're going to be sent to just like another layer of this piece that you put together. I'm guessing the Lipton tea bag is for when you all would drink tea together.
Well, that's the thing that was easiest to paste on there. But
Yeah.
usually, like the office that we work in physically is our little offices around the central suite, is that room. And so everybody just emerges from their door occasionally and we'll eat somebody's birthday cake or we'll talk about movies or whatever you do in that central area. So, and that is where the tea bags are.
Yeah. Do you remember what your last convening in that central area was before you went remote? I know it's been a long time.
We were talking about the schools closing because schools were closing at different times, and you know, some of us had kids in school, and some of us were just wondering how this was going to work out. So yeah, we were talking about what was coming up.
Yeah, I think that's probably true for anyone else who was like having a convening on campus at that time. I wanted to look at the back, and I was curious about, so these are the things that are really making people happy and feel comfort during this time. And so what are some of the objects in these bins?
Well, you chose the first one on the left there is our anonymized bin. We have one square that is the every worker. So the ones that have individuals' names on it were prepared by individuals, and then we have one that just means, you know, everyone who's working is going through this, and so that's our every worker square. And so I had an article that I'd read about what makes people in general happy, and so the items in there are from that article from the post. So one lady painted her hair pink, and we happen to have a pink wig, so we have that, and that made her happy. And then the art, and then there were a lot of people that worked on, you know, making the part of their face that showed outside of a mask. That made them happy. So eye makeup and some poetry and learning a new language, things like that. That they're a little generic, but we took it from real life. And then you pick my bin from the other thing, and so you see there's a bunch of masks because I went crazy making masks. There's a bike because I rode my bike a lot. There's some cats because my daughter fostered cats, and that took over the house for a summer. And some crazy embroidery project I was working on. I was trying to replicate natural things with embroidered patterns. So, and then that t-shirt yarn, I cleaned out my closet. I came up with dozens of t-shirts that were just trash. And so I learned how to make t-shirt yarn off the internet. And then what do you do with that? I just braided it and made it into a giant octopus. But there's some left over there.
Wow. So you've been doing a lot of creating during this time.
Oh, yeah.
I love it. I was definitely struck by seeing the Oxford Latin course. And I thought, I wonder if could somebody be learning Latin during this time? But yes, learning a language is a great way to, I think, feel engaged and feel happy. I know I spent a lot of time on Duolingo these past few months. So this next slide, everyone's expressions are so different on the front. And can you tell me what's happening with some of these expressions? What were some folks getting at with their panels?
Well, we haven't really talked about it. So I just asked everybody to create the Zoom happy hour screen that they imagined for themselves. And you can see that even though none of us are actually claim to be artists, we have a lot of talent.
No kidding. No kidding.
So they came up. All I can talk about for real is my own, which is there in that corner, and I kind of made a cut paper version of myself because I didn't trust myself to actually draw something. But it does show me as my typical Zoom headphones because I'm always trying to cut out some noise behind me.
Yeah, I mean, that's very clear it's you. Your name is there, but even if your name weren't there, I would know that you were that person in the corner. I think that everyone can perhaps relate to some of the emotions and scenarios that are depicted here. Like, I know for me, the bottom right corner that says when you just want to have a meeting, and then you have some kind of intrusion, even if it's someone you love or the pet you love in the background. Like, I know my dog would bark during meetings because we were having package deliveries, and you just want to have a meeting. So seeing all of the expressions here, the top row in the middle as well, maybe just feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be on Zoom again for another hour. I think that everyone can identify with what we're seeing on this piece.
Yeah, and it does kind of capture what the office is like because you have a lot of different personalities.
Yeah.
And I think everybody's did a pretty good job of capturing some of their personality there.
Go to the next slide here. So these pictures are from when you were putting the piece together last week. And I wanted to talk about your materials. So you have this, what looks like a cubby bookshelf that is fastened onto file cabinets. So can you tell me, why you chose these materials?
Sure. The first thing we wanted to do was replicate the look of a Zoom screen. And so the cubicle bookshelf was a natural. So that's why we went with that. The file cabinets, we needed some sort of base to pick it up. Otherwise, people would have to crawl around on the ground to see it. So that, it brought in some of that more office aesthetic. So
it is very officey.
And also we could fill those drawers with bricks to make it very heavy. So it wouldn't blow over.
That's right. Yeah.
So that. And then the other materials are, I would like to thank the Learning Commons at McKeldin for the excellent job they did printing our screens because that was wonderful. And I would also like to thank, it's not Scotchgard, it's Rust-Oleum for their waterproofing spray because we had an absolute monsoon this weekend and I just checked and those things are still bright and they look okay. And also all the Gorilla adhesive products. Thank you.
Yeah, I drove by this morning and your piece is perfectly intact even after all of the weather. So
I was
great job.
dreading that Monday look and I was really relieved to see that
it
weathered okay.
Yeah, that is one of the challenges of putting some kind of installation outside. It's the weather will affect it, whether we like it or not. But no, yours held up really well. So it seemed like lots of coordination could have been involved in this piece since so many individuals are represented. How did you all coordinate assembly in this remote environment?
Because the art is digital, that was easy. So we just collected it online and everything else we did in the office. So we just wheeled up the pieces on Friday and I bolted it together and you can see then this part was just me gluing and taping. That was just one person, but we're still coordinating because there's been actually people have to bring their stuff
Right.
And then we glue it in. So we have a few under construction signs in the cubicles, and slowly that'll fill in.
Yeah.
But we've had a policy in the office where one person mans the office each day. So there's only one person in the suite.
Right.
There's always one person at least who's available as a human to accept packages and things. But for 9 people, that means less than once a week somebody's going to be in. So that does make it difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, this piece is going to be up for some time. So when folks walk by, or if they check our virtual story map, we'll update pictures and they'll be able to see what other kinds of boxes appear on the other side. So
Yes,
it's just like the story that keeps unfolding. So for our last question, what have you enjoyed most about this project?
I definitely like having something to chat about with the group, because we have a question of the week at our weekly meeting, and this is just another thing that we had to talk about that was just fun. So, the one thing about the working remotely is your coworkers are more just work related conversations and less just chatting the way you would in a normal in-person office environment. So this is another non-work thing that we could chat about. So thanks.
Yeah. It's funny. It's like, you've talked about these Zoom happy hours where it's harder to connect and it's not so happy when you're doing it on Zoom, but yet this project about that, like, maybe did that give you some level of happiness, even though it was on Zoom, coordinated through Zoom and about Zoom?
Yeah, it was. It's just a goofy, fun thing.
Yeah.
A diversion. So yes, it definitely did
Good.
raise our happiness level a little.
Well, thank you so much, Koralleen, for chatting with me today about Zoom Happy Hour. And for those of you who find your way onto campus, this piece is located in the parking lot by H.J. Patterson, and you can visit it at any time until May 11th. And this, again, is part of our DOTS Art Park initiative, a new pilot program from Transportation Services this year. Koralleen, thank you again. I love the story behind your piece. I love your piece. And while I know all of you say you are untrained artists, there's so much creativity and thought, and you really did create something wonderful to share with campus.
Thanks, that's great to hear.
Have a great day.
You too.
Bye. Thanks again, Koralleen. If you would like to visit Zoom Happy Hour, it will be located in the lot next to H.J. Patterson until May 11th. This installation is part of a new initiative from Transportation Services, the DOTS Art Park. To learn more, visit our website.